All right, welcome back, everyone. You guys have been deep diving with us into how businesses exchange information, digitally, of course.
And it's a story that goes way back, further than you might think, with some surprising twists and turns along the way.
Yeah, it's not just ones and zeros flying around. There's a whole evolution of how companies connect. Today, we're diving into, I guess you could say, a bit of a rivalry EDI, the old reliable, versus APIs, the new kid on the block.
And it's a fascinating comparison. You could almost think of it like the old postal system versus email. Both get the message across, but in very different ways.
Yeah. So EDI, which stands for Electronic Data Interchange, has been around for decades, right? It's how businesses have traditionally exchanged all sorts of important information.
Exactly. Think like purchase orders, invoices, shipping notices, all that crucial stuff that keeps supply chains moving. And it's built for reliability and security.
Makes sense. You don't want those invoices getting lost in the digital mailroom. But then we have APIs, application programming interfaces, which are, well, can you break those down for us? They seem a bit more mysterious.
A bit more behind the scenes for sure. But APIs are all about real-time communication between systems. So instead of those big batches of data that EDI handles, APIs are more like sending specific requests and getting instant responses.
Okay, I think I'm getting it. So EDI is like sending a whole package through the mail, and APIs are like sending a text message.
That's a great analogy. EDI is all about standardized formats and scheduled transfers, while APIs are designed for speed and flexibility.
Gotcha. So help me out here. When a company's trying to decide between EDI and APIs, what are the key factors they need to consider? Is it just about size? Big companies use EDI and small companies use APIs.
Well, it's not quite that straightforward. EDI's strength is in its standardized formats and security protocols. It's really well suited for industries with strict regulations like, healthcare and finance, where accuracy and security are absolutely paramount.
Right? When you're dealing with patient records or financial transactions, you don't want any room for error.
Exactly. And that's where EDI really shines. It's been honed over decades to be super reliable and trustworthy for those sensitive transactions.
Makes sense. So where do APIs fit into all of this?
Well, APIs are fantastic for things that need real-time updates or more customized interactions. Like, think about tracking a package delivery, or integrating with social media, that sort of thing.
So APIs are more about agility and responsiveness.
Exactly. They let systems talk to each other on the fly, which opens up a whole world of possibilities. But, and this is important, APIs can be a bit more complex to set up, especially when you're dealing with lots of different partners.
Because there isn't that one-size-fits-all standard like with EDI.
You got it. With APIs, you often have to do some custom coding to make sure everyone's speaking the same digital language. It's a bit like having to translate between different dialects sometimes.
So it's not as simple as just plugging things in and letting them go.
Not always, no. But the trade-off is that flexibility and speed, which can be a huge advantage for certain applications.
Okay, so it seems like both EDI and APIs have their pros and cons. What's the best way for companies to decide which one to use?
Well, it really boils down to understanding their specific needs. What kind of data are they exchanging? How important is speed versus security? How many different partners do they need to connect with? All of these factors play a role.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. It's more about finding the right tool for the job.
Absolutely. And here's where things get really interesting. We're seeing more and more companies actually using both EDI and APIs, kind of creating these hybrid systems that leverage the strengths of each.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like having the best of both worlds.
You got it. They
Yeah.
might use EDI for those large standardized transactions that need that rock-solid reliability, and then use APIs to handle real-time updates and those more customized requests.
I see. Can you give us an example of how that might work in practice, like a real-world scenario?
Sure. Imagine a clothing retailer. They might use EDI to manage their big orders from suppliers, like their bulk shipments of new inventory, but then use APIs to give customers real-time updates on their order status, like when it ships and when it's out for delivery.
So they're using EDI for the back-end operations, where reliability and accuracy are crucial, and APIs for the customer-facing interactions, where speed and responsiveness are key?
Precisely. It's a seamless way to combine the best of both technologies.
That's fascinating. It really shows how businesses are getting creative with technology to create these smooth, efficient processes.
Exactly. And I think that's the key takeaway here. It's not really about EDI versus API. It's about understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each and finding the best way to use them together to achieve your business goals.
Great point. And this begs the question, As technology keeps evolving, at this breakneck speed, what do you think the future holds for EDI and APIs? Will one eventually replace the other?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Some folks think APIs will make EDI obsolete because they're more flexible and easier to adapt. But EDI has such a strong foundation, it's hard to imagine it disappearing completely, especially in those industries where security and compliance are non-negotiable.
Yeah, it seems like there's room for both to coexist and even evolve together.
I think so too. We might see more of those hybrid systems or even new technologies that combine the strengths of both EDI and APIs into a single platform.
Interesting. It sounds like a pretty dynamic landscape. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with as they navigate this world of business technology?
I'd say don't get bogged down in the technical jargon or the hype. Focus on the bigger picture. How can technology help you communicate better, streamline your processes, and create a better experience for your customers?
Great advice. So listeners, keep exploring and keep innovating. And join us again for our next deep dive into the fascinating world of business technology.